Okay, hi everybody. Richard from Lovebrewing. I think most of you will have seen me before, perhaps on some of the other videos we've run, or if you visit us at our two retail outlets, one in Chesterfield and one in Liverpool. Today, we're going to talk to you about this new Grainfather. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit. We're really excited here in Liverpool and Chesterfield about it. And we're going to do a bit of a demo today. I've brought one of my colleagues along, Marv here, who's going to talk us through. Marv's our real guru brewer, and he absolutely loves anything to do with grain, beer kits, that type of thing. So he's totally in his element, and he just loves talking about it. So we're going to let him loose on it in a minute. But just before we do, we just want to say a few things about the Grainfather. This is coming from New Zealand. They've spent months and months and months researching this to get it absolutely right. It's a complete brewing system for people wanting to do mashing from all grain. It's probably the most comprehensive piece of kit we've seen for a very long time. It will do everything that you're wanting to do. It will do your sparging, it will do your mashing, it will do your pumping. It just does everything. Temperature control down to absolute fine art. But I'm going to let Marv demo this a little bit anyway and talk to you about it. But the first thing that we need to know is we do two versions. We do the UK version and then we do the Europe. There's a plug change on the two from this element here, which is our control panel. Marv set this up. It takes about 5 minutes to set it up, and I'm going to hand over to Marv now so that he can have a little play with it and tell you all about it. So Marv, what are we going to do first off with it?
So to start with, I'm going to explain about all the features on the system. First I'm going to explain about the elements. We've got a 2 kilowatt element and we've got a 500 watt element. The 2 kilowatt element is for the rolling boiler. It gets your temperature up quickly to the temperature you want, and also we've got the 500 watt element, which keeps it to a standard, keeps it to a steady temperature for your mashing.
So Marv, just to come in there, your 2 kilowatt then, you'd use that as like a booster?
Yeah, you'd use it as a booster to basically get your temperature up to what you want.
What, as quickly as possible?
As quickly as possible, yeah.
And then you would use the 500 watt to...
basically the 500 watt will just basically keep your temperature to a stable, keep your temperature stable basically.
So when we're doing a boiler or what have you, and we've got up to temperature, we just want to hold that temperature, we'd click that in then.
Yes, exactly, okay. Yeah. Which,
all right.
Basically, so click it down, that's for normal,
yep.
And then at the top, that's
okay.
for mash. Okay, so I'm going to go into to the unit here. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to explain about the two buttons here. We've got a boiler button, which basically gets your boil up, and then we've got a mash button, which we're going to be using a bit later on. And basically got the button set it to normal, and what that'll do is basically nothing will happen until you switch it. We've got a pump button, which turns your pump on and off, and that'll be, I'll explain a bit more about that later on when we start adding the grain. And on here we've got an on and off button, an on-off button. We've got the set button, which will help you to set your temperature, which I'll explain about when I start adding some water and start sorting my grain out. And then we've got the two arrows up and down to set your temperature.
Just show the way that lifts off quite nice and neat as well, the whole unit.
Yeah, so basically this unit's really simple to remove. All you need to do, just unplug the bottom. You can unplug that.
So one of these leads is coming into the base of the unit.
Yeah, what's going into the base of the unit, that's for the element.
Yeah.
And the other one that goes into the pump to control that.
Super.
So you can take that out.
And your third one, this grey one coming down.
That's your thermometer.
Excellent.
Okay,
excellent.
Thermostat. So I'm just going to click this on. So the reason why you can take it off just makes it so simple to clean.
It's great for storage as well, isn't it, Mark?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, beauty about it is when we finish with it. I mean, as you can see, we're not taking up much room. So we're doing it in the corner of this kitchen. I mean, when you finish with it, once it's cleaned, you can compact everything, the cooler, everything goes in there. and you can just shove it under the stairs or wherever you keep it. So it's excellent.
Hey Marv, this is the Rolls Royce. We don't want to be just chucking them under the stairs, do we? You know?
Placing it under the stairs, that's what we're going to be doing. So,
this is pride of place in the lounge, this is.
it is in my lounge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so I'm just going to put these back in because I'm going to start adding some mash water. I'm going to explain about what I'm going to be doing in a minute. Right, so, are we on? Right, so I'm going to explain about what we've got in here. Obviously we've got a nice lid. Right, so we've got an inner bucket.
Marv, just stop you there. These little clips?
Yeah, basically the clips.
But they're not for mashing, are they? They're for if we're going to convert it into...
They're for if you're going to convert it into either T500 or the Alembic pot still.
Okay, so we'll talk about that later. Yes. I'll deal with that one later on.
That's fine.
But this stage, we don't need to worry about those clips.
No. I mean, they're good to keep on for when you're storing it, so if you do knock it or something, then obviously your lid's not going to fall off.
Super.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take out this inner bucket. Just explain a bit more about it. So the beauty about this is to aid you with your sparging. So you can sit that on the top, obviously your grain's in there, put your sparge water into there and it will just fall through. And then take that out, and then you've got your wort in the bottom there, which is excellent. Really simple. Just to explain about the false bottom as well, so no grain falls through, if you can see that.
Yeah, can
so that's nothing can go through there, which is excellent. Just to explain a bit about the inside. There's a bit of water in there because we've been doing this mash water, but obviously you've got the cage there which goes around your pump, which stops any grain or hops going through, which is excellent. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start...
Just while we're there, Marv, we've also got, as you can probably see, there's like a little framework just going around the outside. And the idea of that framework is, as Marv just showed you, is this will sit so nicely on top there. We'll come on to sparging in a minute and as to what we've got to do, but this just makes it so simple. Whereas you see other systems and they're having to like get other things to do the sparging. This does it all in one piece of equipment. So sorry to interrupt there, Mark.
That's fine. We do forget things. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my sparge water. I'm going to explain what recipe I'm going to be doing. So I've chosen today the Beerworks Theakston's Best Bitter, exclusive to us at Lovebrewing. So it's going to be a nice full-bodied bitter.
So when we're talking about a Theakston's bitter there, Marv, we're just, basically, it's a recipe that we've made up ourselves to replicate something similar to a Theakston's Best Bitter. We've just got to be a little bit careful with copyright and what have you. Theakston's haven't given us that recipe.
No, they haven't given us that recipe. It's very similar to a Theakston's Best Bitter. So, first of all, most importantly, I'm going to read my instructions.
RTI, as we always say.
Yes, that's it. Okay. So, to start with, I need to get my mash temperature up to between 66 to 70 degrees to extract all the starches from my grain. Alright, so it says here the mash liquor needs to be 9.7 litres. So what I do, I just add 9 litres, add my grain, and see where we're at from there.
Okay.
So, I'm now going to add 9 litres of water.
One of the things that we've always got to remember as well is what we're now doing is we're taking this grain, the malt here, this one's mainly a Maris Otter pale malt, and we're going to take that and we want to extract all the sugars out of that and all the goodness from the grain, which is going to give us what's called our wort. So in the bottom of the bucket, we'll end up with all this gorgeous stuff that then will turn into our beer. It will have its sugars already in it. We're not adding any extra sugar or anything like that. And the difference between this and comparing it with a beer kit is what will have happened is the beer kit, the manufacturers will have taken the wort that we're actually making here, they'll extract the water out of the wort and we'll end up with concentrated malt. When we get that home, we then add our water back to it and in certain cases the sugar to it, and that's going to bring it back into this wort state that we've got now. And I think that's really important. The benefits that we're getting here is we don't have any concentration and we don't have any increasing the amount that we've got when we start to do it. It's all as is. And that's why we'll end up with a much, much better quality beer, provided obviously we use the right ingredients and we do it properly, than we would from a kit, because there's absolutely no concentration on it. So if you're looking for ultimate quality, then obviously this is the way forward. I have to say, some of the improvements we've had in the kits have been so good that that's obviously brought us much closer to what we're actually achieving here. But the other thing about this is the fun. It's the fun element that we can actually create whatever we want. We can actually make a beer to our own recipes. We can do literally whatever we want with this particular machine. We can put as much hops in it. We can literally design our own beer for our own personal use.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to place my inner bucket inside the system. Okay, so now I'm going to set the temperatures. I'm going to explain how this works.
Let me go around the other side again, out your way.
So, if you have a look here, we've got a set button. Alright, so I'm going to set my temperature to 66 degrees, as it says on the recipe. I will double check that, just to make sure. It's very important to get these temperatures right. If you get them wrong, then you can start getting a hell of a lot of problems. Right. So it's saying heat the water 75 to 80 degrees. Now with this system, it will hold that temperature as it goes up. So we don't need to do it with this particular system. So we're going to take it up to 66 degrees. It says between 64 to 67. I'm going to take it to 66. So it's an even temperature. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold down the set button. And there we go, that light's come on. So now I'm going to set my temperature to 66. This is what we've got there. And I'm going to hold the button down again. There we go, it's now set to work. Now I'm going to put it onto boil to get the temperature up. So we're going to go onto normal. So we're setting it to the higher element. So I'm just going to pop the lid on while that's warming up. And then I'm just going to wait till that heats up to 66 degrees.
Marv, just go through a little again about the two temperatures. On the instructions it's saying a temperature of 75.
It's saying between, here we go, it says firstly heat the water from 75 to 80 degrees.
Right, so is that because most people won't have the temperature
Exactly,
control?
yes, because what happens is when you add your grain it will bring the temperature down.
Right.
Whereas with this you've got the temperature control.
Gotcha.
So as soon as the water starts going down in temperature it will heat that water up.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why we...
So we can really just move that little bit of instruction to one side.
I mean,
and just
don't
go
get me wrong,
straight.
you could do exactly what it says and it would work fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't need to. With
you
this
don't
machine.
really need to, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it at home. I've used this system a couple of times and it's... and we don't really need to do that. I personally haven't had any problems with it. So I'm going to stick to my guns. We're going to stick between that. So obviously, as you can see, it says between 64 to 67 degrees.
Right.
For the even temperature. But obviously, a lot of people will struggle with trying to keep that temperature at an even plane.
Yeah.
Whereas with this system, we can keep the temperature at exactly.
Yeah, and I think we are plus or minus of 1%, aren't we?
Yes, give or take. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm leaving it at 66. So we've got between. So if it goes up, we've got 67 or 65.
Yeah.
So we've got between that. Okay. So that water's heating up now. And the next stage will be adding the grain.
So we're now, we've been about probably 15 minutes getting this up to temperature. We're now up to 66 and back to Marv again.
So before we're going to add the grain, I'm just going to set the system to mash, which is this button here. So that's now mashing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start adding my grain. If you can just pass my mixing spoon. So just take the lid off. Just pop that on. I've got a stopwatch ready for the 90-minute mash. So I'm just going to start adding my grain. So we're just going to add a little bit at a time. Right, so I'm going to use this jug. Just makes it easier just to get the grain in. Right. So make sure you just get an even mix all around. And each time that I add some grain, make sure I give it a good mix with a spoon. The reason why, because you can get clumps of dry grain. And what we need to do, we need to get rid of those dry clumps. We need as much of that hot water to touch that grain as possible to extract as much starch as what we can. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a good mix. It smells amazing. I love this smell, I really do. Reminds me of bread.
Ooh, ooh.
It's nice, isn't it?
I know. Do you think we ought to come out with like a perfume or something like
So,
this?
yeah.
You know, just for us men.
Bitter perfume.
Yeah.
Right, so let's just a bit more. So this is a bit of a time-consuming process, but it is extremely important. Again, just keep making sure that it's all mixed in. Some more in there. Might be right just putting 2 jugs in this time before I mix it. Quite a strong lad, so I need a good mix.
So it's thickening up, Marv.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it is. So the consistency you need, you want it to be like a, basically like a porridge, like a thick porridge. Now I'm getting that at the moment. Just getting.
It actually looks a bit like porridge anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I say we grab some bowls. What do you reckon? Okay, so we've just added the grain. Just get a good mix round, a really good mix, just to try and get all those dry clumps out of there. So if you can, I don't know if you can move in on that just to see what consistency we've got.
Should we
just go? Yeah, we'll just tip it.
It's sort of like quite nice and yeah, it's like sloppy, but it's quite thick.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I've got this little false top here. So basically, I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to pop this over the top.
Marv, just show them the little bit of plastic around the side on here.
Oh yeah, basically got a little bit of plastic around the side.
Just to give it a bit of friction when it
just
gets
give it a bit
there.
of friction as it goes down.
You've got the 2 little loops there for holding.
Yep.
So that makes life a lot easier, just as we push it down.
Can be a bit difficult once it's in. Just make sure.
Obviously got to be a nice tight fit.
Yep. So basically, we're just going to push that down until it just reaches the wort. So it just keeps it. You don't want to push it down too much because it'll be too. There we go. So we're just touching it.
Oh look, liquid's just starting to come through.
So liquid's just starting to come through. Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
And we're ready to mash. So what I'll do now is I'll add the top. I could seal it. I don't really need to for this. And I'm going to set my timer for 90 minutes.
What we're now going to do is Marv's just going to show you how the pump is going to work, because what we want to do is we want to keep this pumping throughout the whole system. Marv's going to go into a little bit of detail about it as well. So if you can just show them, Marv, what we're going to do.
So basically we're just going to add this pump. So what's happening is, the reason behind the pump is so the wort is circulating constantly through the grain, so you're getting more and more starch out of there. As you say, you need to get as much out there as possible.
Okay, so Marv, just on that point, because this is really fascinating, really quite important.
Of course.
So we've got at the bottom, obviously, a lot of liquid down at the bottom.
Yes.
And we've obviously got some liquid in the grain.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're pulling the liquid from the very bottom up through the top, and then letting it go down through the grain back into the bottom.
So in essence, it's kind of self-sparging constantly through the grain. So all that water is getting in contact with the grain, it's circulating through and extracting all the starches. So you can get all your numbers up and your gravities and everything up to what you want. Perfect. So I'm just going to unscrew this. Put that on there. So basically the pipe just goes down into the vessel, and I'm going to screw this on here. Make sure it's screwed on nice and tight.
Don't want any leakers, do we?
No, we don't want any leakers at all. Nice and tight. So then we're going back onto this little thing here. So then we've got go to the pump button. Okay, just switch that on, and the pump is now on, and the wort is now pumping through your grain, and that will consist for the whole of the 90 minutes.
So really, Marv, have we got anything to do now?
No, I'm going to make a cup of tea.
But this pump's just going to keep pumping for the full 90 minutes?
Yes, it will do, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, looking inside it, we can see there's all sorts of movement there.
Yeah.
Everything's going round and round and round. It's looking great. What will happen with the liquid? Will it sort of like, throughout the period of time, is it going to get a little bit clearer?
As the liquid is pumping through throughout the 90 minutes, it will get clearer as we get towards the end.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into the sparging section.
Okay, just while we've got a few minutes while this is actually going through the full mashing process. One or two people, Marv, have been talking to me about multi-step mashing. Can you just sort of like throw a little bit of light on that for me?
Basically, we use step mashing to get drier beers or sweeter beers or things like that. So basically, this system will handle that really easily. So let's say you're doing a step mash at the first 20 minutes at 66 degrees, and then the remainder of it.
So Marv, step mashing, what you're really meaning by that is we're going to have...
go in steps in temperature.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Steps in terms of how long we're in the tub and different variations
and
in
steps
temperature.
in temperature as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so as an example, we're going to do a mash at 66 degrees for 20 minutes, and then we're going to take it up to 70 degrees for the remainder part of the mash. So most mashes will last about 90 minutes. So we're taking 20 minutes off of that at 66 degrees, and then we're going to take it up to 70. So basically all we need to do, so obviously we've set the temperature at 66 at the moment, which we're using for our mash. So if I was going to change that, all I'd do, so basically hold the set button down again as we did before, and then set my temperature to 70 degrees, hold set down, and away you go again. And it will take that temperature up pretty quick.
So it's taking what, literally seconds? Well,
yes, yeah, literally seconds just to do it. Obviously the heating up would take a bit longer, but it is really efficient. You can still get that temperature up there.
And just why would we want to do step mashing? What's it going to do?
The reason why we do step mashing, because a lot of people like dry beers, or you've got sweet beers, or medium dry beers, or sweet beers. So we do these step mashing to. It basically brings out the unfermentable sugars in your grain, which you might need for a sweet beer. So that's why we.
So it's changing the profile of the
grain.
grain.
Exactly. Yes.
And obviously, these guys who are the experts have worked on ways of actually getting this to do all the various things.
Yes, exactly.
And at this stage, when we're a little bit novices, we would follow instructions.
At this stage, I mean, the best thing to use is probably the Beerworks kits that have done up like what we've done today. Reason being because it's simple to use, the instructions are very well explained.
And you're not going to get any wastage, are you?
No, exactly. No,
you're not having to buy loads of different hops because each one's...
Yeah, exactly. The beauty about it with this kit as well is the hops are already weighed out for you. Whereas if you made your own recipe up, or you got a recipe off the internet, or using the Beersmith app, basically what we can do is you have to weigh out your hops, and then we'd add your hops in at particular times and whatnot. But the beauty about this recipe is the fact that your hops are already weighed out and packaged up ready.
Okay.
So all the hard work is done.
Marv, you've just mentioned something there, a Beersmith app.
Beersmith is an app which you can download on your iPad and also for Android. And Beersmith is excellent. It's what all the top brewers are using at the moment. Even on a commercial side, the brewers are using it. Now the app is basically, if you've got a recipe and you wanted to input it into something, so you can see exactly what basically temperatures and everything. So what the Beersmith app does is you can input all your grain ratios, the quantity of your hops, the times and everything, and it will tell you exactly what temperature your water should be, how much water you should be adding, your sparge water, and then your rolling boil times and everything.
So it works it all out for you. So
yes, exactly. Yeah,
like
it does it all for me. Yes.
On the sort of the beer packs that we're doing here, the Beerworks one.
Yes,
it tells us in the instructions.
Exactly. Yes.
But this is like taking it to another level, where perhaps we've got a load of grain lying around, and we think, what can we do with that grain?
Yeah, exactly.
This app will tell us. And
exactly. Yeah. So if you input, supposing you've got so much grain on the floor, you've got some there, blah blah blah, and you just wanted to make a standard beer or even a hybrid beer, Basically, if you input that grain into your beer smith app, it will tell you exactly what colour your beer will be. It'll tell you how much water to add, your sparging, and everything. Even if you wanted to do step mashes, you could set that on the beer smith app. Now there will be, at the moment, there isn't a profile for the Grainfather for the beer smith app, but there will be one coming up soon. So if you wanted to use this in conjunction with the beer smith app, you will be able to.
Yeah, I think we were talking to Peter Eastwood, one of the main men behind this. He's been very, very involved in the development of it and actually getting it to market. So thank you, Peter, for all the work you've done on this. It's been marvellous for all these all grain brewers who've now got something that's going to be really fabulous for them. But Peter was telling us that he'd been talking to them and they're actually going to adapt the app to be able to take into account the Grainfather.
Which is excellent.
I think the Grainfather could be something really quite revolutionary
in
the market.
From what I've seen of it, it is something that, well, every brewer could do with. I mean, as you can see from the start, it's not taking up any room whatsoever. Whereas if you was getting into grain brewing, also it's cost effective as well. That's a very big factor of the Grainfather. I mean, you're looking, if you was going to set up a 3-tier system for yourself at home, you're looking at spending nearly £1,000.
Oh, plus,
yeah, exactly.
Especially if it's all in stainless.
I mean, obviously there are other systems out there which can do the same thing as the Grainfather. However, the price is extremely expensive.
Scary, isn't it? Scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
Anyway,
it really is.
Enough of the bloody sales.
Yes.
Stop selling.
Exactly.
We're doing a bloody demo here.
We are doing a demo. So yeah, it's really efficient and it does the job.
And I think the other thing to bear in mind, we've been going now nearly 20 minutes of the 90 for the brew, and look at the temperature, it's just maintained 66, 67, plus or minus 1. It's been absolutely constant. Even with the pump going, it's still been great, hasn't it, Marv?
Yes, it has, yeah.
Bro, so we'll come back in about half an hour, 35, 40 minutes, and we'll
see where we're at.
Okay, so we've been going like 53 minutes now on this. We've managed to maintain the 66, 65, 67 temperature. I mean, it's absolutely staggering the way it's just so constantly 66, Marv. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Really.
Plus or minus 1. And we've now got quite a bit of, I mean, I'm looking at this and there's quite a bit of foaming inside the bucket. Is that what you would have inside the Grainfather?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would have expected. Because obviously the water's rushing into the wort, and obviously it's going to foam up. It's foaming up lovely, circulating really well. Yeah, it seems to be doing the job.
Good. So we can leave it for another.
Yeah, we've got another half an hour or so, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, bro. So Marv, we've taken 1 hour 33 minutes, so we're 3 minutes over. What are we going to do now?
So now I'm just going to turn the pump off, set everything to normal, so the machine's not heating up or anything, and then we're going to start doing the sparging. Okay, so...
Sounds exciting.
It is, it's very exciting. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to turn the pump off with that switch there, so the pump's off. I'm now going to switch this to neutral, so it's in the middle there. So nothing's heating up or anything. Okay, I'm going to disconnect the pump, just give it a good shake just to make sure all the water that was in there, or the wort that was in there, is, just be careful, it does get quite hot, this pipe, so that when you're unscrewing it, just be careful. Okay, it's quite a long thread as well on this screw, so it screws really tight. It'll just take a little while. So that's off. So I'm just going to place that. There you go. Right, so I'm going to take the lid off. Okay. Again, just be careful with this because it can get quite hot.
We've got quite a bit of foam in there,
yeah? We've got quite a bit of foam. But that'll go when we start the sparging. So now I'm going to get the. I'm just going to seal the pump tube for the time being, so nothing gets in there. There we go. Right, so now I'm going to lift the bucket out and place it on the stand we have. Get that.
I bet there's some weight in that, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Yeah, it's quite a lot of grain at this. So. So as you can see, the water's dripping straight through there.
Wow.
So there we go. So just going to wait for that to drip through. And as soon as that water, I suppose it's just dripping through, then we can start asparaging.
So just to recap, Marv, we've had liquid in the bottom.
Yes.
We're pumping that liquid. It's all going through the grain.
Yeah.
It keeps recirculating, going through the grain,
Yeah.
extracting all the goodness from the grain.
That's right.
To give us the sugary content to be able to make
It'll
our
basically be
alcohol.
a really, really if you ever tasted the wort before fermentation, it'll be really, really sweet.
Right.
And obviously you've got sweet and hoppy, which
Yep.
is what it's going to be. So obviously the yeast is going to convert all those sugars into alcohol.
Yep.
Which is where we get this beer.
Okay. So the water, the noise we can hear now is just the liquid.
Yeah, that's just the liquid just draining off through
draining
that
through
content. Yeah.
through the grain.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the plan is to, while it's in this lifted up position, what we're going to do next?
We're now going to add some more water, because obviously we only added a certain amount of water at the beginning. Okay, so
Right.
we need to top that water up. Now we top that water up by doing something called sparging, okay, which is the next process. And what we do is we tip water over, we spread water over the grain bed, okay, at the same temperature as the mash water. And what that will do, that will then again extract even more starch from the grain.
Right.
Okay, so we need to get as much sugars out of that grain as possible. Okay, so we're just going to spread that over the top really evenly as well. Never just pour it straight over in one area. The reason being is because you're going to start getting channels going through your grain. And the water's just, if you start adding more water to that, it's just going to trickle down those channels.
Yeah.
And we're not extracting the water from any other parts of the grain.
No, we don't want the water, do we?
No, exactly. We don't want water, we want sugary wort.
Goodness.
We want goodness, that's it.
Now, just on that subject then as well, the water that we're adding, you mentioned, is at the same temperature as our mix.
Yes.
So our boil was at 66.
Yes.
We've now got some water here in this bucket.
Yeah, that's our
And
sparge water, yeah.
This is what you prepared in advance?
Yeah, I've
So
prepared
that's
this in
all-
advance.
That's all ready to be
You've got
added.
a couple of options of what you can do with that. I mean, you can heat some water up before you start the actual grain brewing.
That's always a good idea, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's a very good idea. Or you can have a separate boiler at the side.
Marv, just talking about that heating up of the water. So, literally, as we came in, we could literally put some water in there,
Yeah.
get it up to temperature,
Of course.
transfer it into the bucket.
Yes.
But there's also the option, if we're struggling time-wise, because
Yeah.
I mean, let's be right, this whole process is going to take us a few
It
hours.
is time consuming. Yeah, I mean,
You know-
like you say, we've been at it a couple of hours
Yeah,
already.
I mean,
so-
one of the things that we could do perhaps is, can we put the water in the Grainfather first,
Yeah.
before we actually do anything?
Yeah. I mean,
Do that perhaps last
you could
night?
actually do it the night before.
Yeah.
Heat up your water to the temperature, and then, as you can see, this is steel. So steel is going to keep the temperature.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can leave it overnight. As soon as you get up, just set your temperature. There's 66 degrees. Even if you're not going to mash straight away, even if you're not going to brew straight
Yeah.
away, it's still going to keep
So that could
temperature.
save sort of like 20,
Yeah, it could
25
save a hell
minutes
of a
of
lot of
heating
time,
up.
yeah, of course.
Let me move this across for you,
Yeah,
Marv,
of course,
because
yeah.
I think you're going to want that, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you've got,
So need the big jug.
you want the big jug here?
Right. So that's starting to
Yeah, I
trickle
can
out
hear
now.
it.
So I think we can go to the sparging stage. So just get a bit of water. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to trickle it over. I'm not going to pour too much over. So I'm literally just going to trickle a bit over like that. Now, a good idea to do this is probably like a watering can with like a sprinkler on or something like that.
Yeah, small,
Just so it's
small
just
water
so it's just trickling
yeah.
out.
But I mean, to be fair, you've got that bed anyway there, haven't you?
Yes, of course,
That stainless steel bed with lots of little holes in.
Yes.
So I mean, that's going to help you dispense.
It's going to help dispense it a bit better, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Of course. So what you don't want is to put too much water in, so it's basically starting to rise above the grain, and that's going through. You want it so it's literally just trickling through. You can tell by the sound that it's just really just trickling through, and that's the sort of sound we're after. So while I'm sparging, this is getting all this foam down. Now what I've done in this bucket, I've just put a bit more sparge water than what we should have, so I will have to just check whereabouts we are
on the scale of
on
things.
the scale of things, yes, of course.
So what we're looking at is our finished volume.
We're looking at 30 litres.
30 litres,
Yes.
right? Okay. And obviously we've got those lovely graduations on the inside.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Okay, so we're really getting near the end of the sparge now. Marv's just got the final bit to run through. Two things that I really ought to point out that Marv and I have just been talking about. The first is our bucket full of water. We had it at 65, 66 degrees C. Now, obviously, this sparging has taken, well, it's probably taken us about 30 minutes, has it, Marv?
Yeah, it's took a while, yeah.
So, within that period of time, obviously the temperature in here is dropping. So, if that's the case, then I think you need to just keep topping it up with some boiling water just to bring your temperature back up to the 65. The reason the temperature is important is we want hot water going through to get the maximum out of those grains. We don't want cold water going through. That's not going to give us the desired effect. It's not going to get as much out of it as we would if it was hot. So that's why it's really quite important to keep that temperature right. A lot of people have actually decided they want a second boiler. So they'd get a second boiler to be able to keep their temperature right for all their sparging water. Or alternatively, they can use the boiler from the T500. The second thing that's worth mentioning as well is you probably look and you can see now the temperature is 82 and it's on the way up. We were 66, that's what our mash temperature was, but about 10-15 minutes ago we flicked it back onto boil so that we could get up to temperature. We're looking for 100 on our boil temperature, so we flicked it up so that we were obviously not going to have to stand around waiting for it to come up to temperature. So we flicked that in while we were still doing all the sparging. So that's probably saved us 10-15 minutes, and we're just coming up to temperature now. We're up to the 83, so very shortly we'll be up to the boil temperature when we can add our hops. I think, are we almost there, Marv?
Not quite.
Not quite, so
So
the last
go
bit's
through a
just
bit,
dropping
yeah,
through.
just let the last bit drop through.
Okay.
And I'm going to place them in the bucket and let's put it to one side to get your boil sorted. And then while it's boiling, obviously you've added your hops. Then we can start cleaning this.
Yeah, I suppose cleaning is sort of a bit of an issue, but there always seems to be a little bit of something going on, which gives us a little bit of time.
You've always got something, obviously like within the mash stage, you've got time to sort of prepare your hops and whatnot, and sort out your sparge water and things like that. And obviously, the sparging stage, you're constantly at it. And then obviously you've got going on to the boil, and then you've got time just to clean that out, and so you're not hanging around waiting for it to boil.
Okay,
I mean, usually, if you wasn't using a system like this and you was using pots on a hob, you'd have to be tending them all the time. You'd be there forever. So
be a nightmare.
yeah, it would.
Peter Eastwood has saved the world a lot.
He has. He really has.
He's our hero, isn't he?
He is. That's about finished now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to transfer this over to the bucket here.
Oh yeah.
So what we have there.
You're up to 28, 29 litres there, Marv, so that's really nice. What, we were actually looking for, what, 30, were we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if a little bit drips out of there, then we can just add that at a later
of course
stage.
you can.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have a look at this now, what you can see is the colour has gone really clear at the top, which isn't the colour of the beer. So what's happened is when we sparged, all the colour and what that's gone right down to the bottom. So when we do that rolling boil, that's going to mix all that up. So I'm just going to wait for that now.
That's going to be quite hot, Marv. Is there any chance we could just put a little in here, or should we not?
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah.
Take it out with the jug.
Yeah.
And then just so everybody can see what we're looking at. Probably best to do it over the sink.
So as you see, that's quite light at the moment. So obviously when we take that to the rolling boil, that's going to really get those colours coming out. So that's really, really light. If I dropped a hydrometer into that now, the gravity would be, it wouldn't be very much at all. A bit too much.
Yeah, just put it
back in.
Waste not, want not.
Waste not, want not indeed. Right. So, yeah, the gravity is quite low at the moment. Okay. So what we're going to do, when the rolling boil gets up, that's going to shake all those sugars up and whatnot.
1020, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously at this stage we're not worried too much about infections because we're going to get that
yeah,
boiling
exactly. It's
up.
going to be boiling hot, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, you can put the lid on, because what will happen, that might start to foam up, so if the lid's on there, that's just going to prevent that from...
yeah, it just also help it speed up a little bit, won't it?
Yes, of course.
So what are you doing, Marv? You're looking at, you've got some hops on the go there. What's that all about?
We've got the hops here. We've got Fuggles and Challenger hops. Nice and aromatic. It does smell.
So the Fuggles is what?
These are your bittering hops.
Right. So we're adding bitter taste to
the beer. Yeah, we're adding bitter
now.
taste to your beer. Yeah. With it being a bitter, it's going to be quite a bitter taste anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm just doing now is I'm just breaking these up a little bit, so we're getting the full potential out of them.
Yeah. Marv, why you've got hop leaves there? You're not using pellets. You're using?
No, personally, I prefer to use hop leaf because you just get more of a stronger taste out of them. You get the full potential out of them.
So again, it's nothing's happened to it.
No, nothing's happened to it. All that's been done, it's been dried.
Yeah.
And compressed in an airtight bag.
Okay.
And they come in a bag like this, which is nice and airtight.
So it's all vacuum
yeah,
sealed?
all vacuum sealed, yeah.
Yeah. So when you open
nice
it,
yeah, all goes like that, and then really nice aroma.
Let me have another sniff again.
Yeah.
So which hops are we adding? We're adding Fuggles?
Fuggles and Challenger.
Challengers. So those are both really bittering hops.
Yeah, and they're very common hops as well. They're used a lot in a hell of a lot of beers. I mean, obviously Fuggles, everyone knows Fuggles.
Well, probably the big two are Fuggles and East Kent Goldings.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And Challenger's probably along those lines.
So your Fuggles is a bittering, and your East Kent is more for your aroma?
You can do both. You can use them both for the same thing.
Yeah.
You can use Fuggles for your bitter. Most hops you can use either for your bittering or your aroma.
Okay. Just as depends on how you want
it. Yeah, it depends on how you want it. Yeah, yeah.
So we're getting very close. We're up to
87,
88.
88, yeah.
Right. So we'll just break off and then we'll bring that up to boil and we'll come back to you, John. Okay, so as you can see, we're up to 99 on our temperature. So we're up to speed now, ready to do the addition of the hops. One thing that I ought to mention is when you looked at the last sample we took out, it was quite pale in colour, relatively low in gravity. Look at the colour now. Obviously what tends to happen is all the malt liquids go down to the bottom of the Grainfather, and it's obviously the water that's going through at the end that we picked out. So that's why it was quite light in colour and a little bit less in gravity. As you can see, we've got a really nice dark colour now to the malt. It's looking really good and the gravity's gone up as well. So we're now going to add the hops. Over to you, Marv. What are we doing now?
So we're just going to add the bitter in hops. We've got Fuggles and this Challenger. So basically I'm just going to tip these in. And then
so you put them both in there, have you?
Yeah, I put them both in here together, yeah. And I'm just going to tip them in now. So there we go. So that's the hops in.
Wow, they've grown already.
Yes. Okay, so I've just added my hops. I'm just going to give it just a bit of a stir just to mix them in. Just to get them rolling. And there we go. Okay then. So I'm going to leave this for 50 minutes now, and then I'm going to add the aroma hops and my profile tablet.
So did you say 50, 50 or
yes,
50?
50. Yeah,
50 minutes,
50
right,
minutes.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be back shortly. Okay, so we've been boiling now for 50 minutes. What are we doing now, Marv?
Now I'm going to add my aroma hops, which is Fuggles. But I'm just going to tip these in. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a protofog tablet.
Yep.
What this does, this aids in clearing towards the end of fermentation. So I'm just going to add that.
So what's the ProFlock going to do?
It's going to aid in clearing towards the end of fermentation.
So it just helps to break down the
exactly.
The enzymes, etc., and means it's easier for clearing.
Yeah, that's it.
Super. So we're about done on that.
Yeah, we've got 10 minutes on that.
One thing I would just add, I've heard through various people that adding the aroma hops are sometimes best done completely at the end of it and just left to soak for about 10-15 minutes.
You can add the hops during fermentation, like a dry hopping.
Yeah.
There's many different ways of getting different flavours.
So it's all about individual.
Yeah, exactly. It's
okay.
Individual taste and flavour. I mean,
super.
There are so many thousand different beers on the market.
All doing different things.
All at different flavours and
Yeah.
tastes, and that's all done through this.
So we'll leave this for another 10 minutes, and then we're on to cooling.
And then we're going to go on to cooling. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Marv. So we've had the extra 10 minutes now, so that's an hour from start to finish on the boil.
Yeah.
We're now going to start cooling.
Yeah.
And we've got our cooler here, which comes complete with the Grainfather.
Yeah.
And that's going to drop our temperature down very, very quickly, isn't it?
Yes.
So over to you, sir.
Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn everything off on here because this is no longer needed. So the boil's finished. I'm just going to set that to there. Okay. So everything's off now. I'm going to remove the lid. I'm going to remove it very carefully because it will be quite hot, which it is. It's extremely hot. Just give me a second.
Can I take it from the...
Yeah, can you get it?
Ooh.
You got it? Quickly. There we go.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home, don't do that. Right. So, in fact, we do need that back on, sorry.
Well, we will do, to stand the,
yes, to stand
the cooler on top. Right. But what are we doing here now? Just explain to me what's going on. We've got the pump.
Yeah, we've got the pump, so we're going to attach the cooler to this. Okay, so the pump's going to be needed. And then we're going to pump the water through the cooler.
Right.
And then straight into the fermenting bucket.
Okay.
Now, the beauty about this cooler is, it is that efficient that the wort can go straight through the cooler and straight into your fermenting bucket. Okay. So you're not having to circulate it or anything, it's going straight out into the fermenter.
So what's this all about, Marv? Is the idea to try and get it as cool as...
Yeah, you need to get it as cool and as quickly as possible. The reason being is because it's at its most vulnerable at this stage for infections.
Right.
Okay, hence why we need to cool it really quick.
Okay, so we're trying to drop that temperature, which is nearly at 100, down
exactly.
to what?
Down to at least 30 degrees. Sorry, 20 degrees. Yeah. Between 18 to 20 degrees.
Which is a great
which is
temperature for fermenting it.
Yeah, and then from then on we can then pitch as yeast.
Okay.
And if you're going to be using, if you're going to be dry hopping or something like that, then obviously you can start adding that to there.
And they tell me that this cooler is so efficient that it will actually drop the temperature to within 3 degrees of our water temperature going in.
Exactly, yes.
Wow. That's quite good, isn't it?
Yes.
And what have we got inside the cooler? Just while it's here, it's probably easy just to have a little look at it.
So to the cooler, we've got 4 outlets, or well, we've got 2 inlets and 2 outlets. So we've got the section here which is going to be connected to the pump.
Right, so that's got the same fitting on it as the one that we were using
that's
before.
Right, yeah. And then we've got a section which we've got connected to the tap.
Right.
What it's going to do, we're going to get some cold water going right through this cooling system. So what you've got is a cooler where your water's going through really slowly, and then the water's shooting through that coil, which is taking all that hot air out into the waste.
So in this coil, we have another coil inside it.
Exactly, yes.
And then the water's going round inside coil.
That's right, yeah.
And therefore chilling it down. So the hot water is going in the centre with the water going round the outside. Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, I've never seen anything like this on the market. I mean, it's absolutely excellent.
Well, you see all these great big things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but basically they're going inside your beer. Obviously, it needs to be sterilised, which is causing more work.
Right. Okay. So shall we put that lid back on?
Yeah. So the lid goes back on.
And shall we start to connect up?
Yeah.
So we've got the one going to the tap, and then we've also got our outlet one here. So that's the water flow coming through and back out again.
That's right. Yeah. So this is going to be connected to the pump.
You've actually got some little feet on the bottom here, so that stops it sliding off the lid
sit on there
and just keeps it in place.
Just bear in mind, we've got a little ball valve on the side here, and what we need to do, we need as least water coming through there as possible, so we want it so it's just trickling out.
Right.
The reason why is because the longer it's in there, the cooler it's going to be as the water's rushing through it.
And what are we going to do? We're going to just run some through to sterilise it?
We can run some through to sterilise it and just check we've got his temperatures right and things.
Okay.
So, all I need to do now is if you can just turn that tap on for me, Richard.
Do we need to while we're sterilising?
Yeah, turn it on, yeah. So you've got quite a bit of water going through, so you can see, and you can see that running through there now.
Right, so we've got the water going through. Yeah, it's going out the waste pipe.
Excellent.
So So
okay, so I'm just going to press the pump on, so the pump's turned on.
I'll just switch that off so that you can get the maximum sterilisation.
Yeah, so I'm just going to put the pump's on now, just check whereabouts my valve is. There we go, so the water's coming through the pump now.
Wow, and that's really quite clear as it's coming through, Marv.
Yes, it is, yeah. Yeah.
So the beer's like already clearing.
Exactly, yeah, and you shouldn't be getting any bits coming through because you've got a little...
Oh, you've got the filter.
Yeah, a little mesh filter on the bottom of the pump, yeah.
So we don't need to have to worry about all those hops.
No, we don't need to worry about the trub getting through or anything like that.
Okay. You shout when you want me to turn the water on, and then we can look at the temperatures before we put it into the fermenter.
Set my valve so it's just trickling out.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I did earlier while you were messing around, Marv, I've sterilised this stainless steel fermenter.
Yeah.
So that that's all nice and clean and sterilised now.
Yeah, excellent.
We used a good cleaner steriliser on it and gave it a rinse to make sure we got no other chlorine tastes in it.
So I'm just going to turn the pump off while we... There we go. Yep. So that's now going to go... We're just going to move this over here.
Do you want it your side?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Shall I start this water running?
Yep, so the water can run through. Excellent. That's it. Pump is on.
Oh, that water's really hot. What's your temperature like, Marv?
There we are. Excellent.
Feels good?
Yeah, feels really good.
Well, this, coming out here, is really quite warm. So it's obviously doing a great job.
Yeah, it's bringing all the heat out, yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see, that literally is just trickling through. So it will take a bit of a while for it to get...
So you can adjust the flow rate on that valve?
Exactly, that's what this ball valve is here, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're finding that it's too hot, we've just got to slow down the flow?
Exactly.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If we've got it too cold, then we can increase the flow.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. And there we go.
So this is going to take, what, 15 minutes probably for something like that? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Just while it runs through?
Yes.
This is such an important part, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've got to be really careful we don't get anything in there. We don't want any flies or anything dropping in.
So what I would suggest while we're doing that,
might be worth just resting the lid on.
Just rest the lid on just to stop anything getting in there.
Okay. So when we've done this, we'll come back to you. Okay, so we've got to the really exciting part now. We've got 25 litres of beer there. Well, it's not beer yet, but liquid that's going to be converted into beer. We've got the leftovers here in the actual Grainfather. So if we just have a little look at what's here, as you can see, there's quite a bit of sludge at the bottom. Marv, you've got a technical word for this, haven't you?
Trub. Is the word we use. Yeah, that brewers use.
That's what it's called. It's called trub. I call it sludge. And we're just going to pour this away into the sink, get rid of all this, and then we're going to go through the cleaning process of how we clean the Grainfather. While I'm doing this, Marv, are you going to add some yeast?
Yeah, I'm going to pitch in my yeast.
You're going to pitch some yeast into
using the Craft Series yeast, M79 Bit and Union. And I'm just going
the Mangrove Jack ones?
Mangrove Jacks, yeah. Mangrove Jacks yeast.
Well, I'll just pour this into the sink.
So just bear in mind that we cooled that within 15 minutes. So it went from 99 degrees at boiling point to it's about 25 degrees at the moment, which is excellent. And we did it in 15 minutes. So it's really good. So the yeast is in there. I'm just going to give it a bit of a mix, just to mix the yeast in. And there we go, that'll ferment out.
So you're going to put the lid on, make sure we don't get any infections in it.
So it goes on the top there.
Yeah.
And we're going to...
You got the spring-loaded clip, haven't you?
Spring-loaded clip. Seal.
Obviously we can use a plastic bucket.
Yeah, you can just use a standard fermenting bucket or whatever fermenter you've got at home, as long as it's airtight and sterilised properly. You shouldn't have any problems.
But we love stainless, don't we, Marv?
We do like stainless. Stainless is excellent. So I'm just going to look up. Okay. Yep. There we go.
So you've got airlock, some water in?
Yep, water in the airlock.
Excellent.
And the lid on to stop any dust getting in. So that goes on. And there we are. That's a beer ready to ferment.
Well, guys, I'm afraid this is the end, I'm afraid, of our brew day with the Grainfather. But we've got one final thing to do, and it's always the worst thing, the clean down. We've got some amazing cleaner sterilisers that the Grainfather people have brought in so that it can really help us to clean these. So we're just going to run through the clean down now. Those steriliser cleaners are being upgraded all the time. So as they find better ones, we're bringing better ones in. But the current ones are great. They get rid of all the stains, but it might be slightly different the next time that we get one. Marv, over to you.
Right, so we've got some of the steriliser here. I've just filled it up halfway with hot water, and I'm just going to tip some of this steriliser in. And I'm just going to give it a good mix up just to dissolve some of it. Okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to just reconnect the cooler, and I'm just going to pump the steriliser through the cooler just to get rid of all the rubbish that's in there and some of the leftover water and things. So
you're going to recirculate it back through again?
Yeah, recirculate it back through again. So just stand that on there. With this stage, we don't need the valve being pushed all the way down.
So you've opened it to max?
Yeah, open it to max, just let it go all the way through.
Yep. God, I've got it.
Have you got it?
Yeah, you've tightened it up.
Okay then, so I'm just going to reconnect this. Again, make sure it's nice and tight. There we go. So, now I'm going to turn the pump on.
So we're literally just pumping?
Yeah, just circulating it through. Just leave it to do that for a sec.
Yeah, she comes. She's running
coming
through now. Yeah, yeah.
And as you can see, the water is coming through that's been left over in the pump.
So this is a really important part, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you don't want to leave any of that water in there, because obviously it's just going to be really sticky. And the next time you come to doing your brew, you're going to have problems, and it's going to be.
And Marv, it actually sets quite thick on the side.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah,
and it's all stainless steel, but it sets quite thick on there, doesn't it?
Hence why we're using this cleaning steriliser supplied.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we'd just be having it'd be a nightmare to clean. You'd have to soak it with a steriliser in the pump, and it's just a bit of a pain. Again, it is time consuming, but it needs to be done, and it just makes your life a hell of a lot easier for the next time you come to brew.
Oh, do you know what, Marv? One of the things that I've always found with brewing is the most frustrating thing is when you come to have a brew and everything's filthy.
Yeah.
And it ends up taking you hours cleaning everything before you start.
Exactly.
And you just don't feel like doing it in the end.
No, of course. It just sort of takes the fun out of brewing.
It does.
It does.
And it's just like 10 minutes of pain now. It's so well spent.
Yeah,
because then everything's nice and fresh, and you know you put it away all nice and clean.
Exactly.
So Marv, I've got to say that's been a fabulous little day. I've really enjoyed our session today. Which style of beer was it that we've made?
It was a Fixton's Bitter.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to trying that. We've got roughly, 5-7 days in the bucket now?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. I'll keep taking a hand to read it towards the end.
And then what are we going to do? We're going to bottle it or barrel it?
We'll probably barrel it.
Okay.
So we can get a couple of tasters on in the shop then.
Oh, so we'll have it on in the showroom
in
Chesterfield?
We shall do, yes, we will do.
Excellent. So we look forward to that. And in the meantime, anybody who wants to partake in one of the Grainfathers, please visit the website www.lovebrewing.co.uk. If you've got any queries or any questions that you want to ask us, you can either email myself, Richard at Lovebrewing, or you can email Marv at lovebrewing.co.uk, and we'll come back to you with the answers that you're looking for. And we really hope that you'll enjoy using it and get the most out of it, because I honestly believe it's a fabulous piece of kit. So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you again.
Okay, so I really thought that this would be worthwhile talking to you about. We've got the Grainfather, you can see there, that's all mashing away. We've actually got a boiler there that's obviously with a recycling pump and everything else. If we wanted to do our own distillation, we've got the perfect machine there for it. This would be a standard T500. And as you can see, the boilers are almost identical. So there is absolutely no reason why we can't use that boiler and fit the various bits on the T500 to it. So for example, we've got here a T500 copper column. This will go on top there. We've also got the T500 in the stainless column. And again, we can utilize this with the Grainfather. All we need to purchase is the actual condenser part of this particular T500 to be able to work on the Grainfather. But also, where we start to get really a little bit exciting is if we do it using the copper lid, the copper dome, that will go on the T500. Now, you probably remembered at the start, we talked about these clips. Well, these clips are really necessary for the particular tops that fit on when we're using distillation, because the seal has to be absolutely spot on. But we can use this copper lid on the Grainfather, and we also have the copper condenser that will go on this and will convert the Grainfather into a pot still. Now let's talk a little bit about the pot still. But before we go into that, I'll just show you. We have this on the top of here, like so, and then that will sit on top of the lid. We've got a video on the website where we're actually talking about the alembic still. We show it being operated. So this is really just to try and whet your appetite, and if you're excited about the thought of using this with the Grainfather, then please look in more detail at the actual website and look at the alembic still and also the T500, because we've got some great videos on those as well. And as you probably gather, this is really my specialist subject. I really love the art of distillation. I brought Marv in on the Grainfather because he's a bit of a grain buff, but the actual distillation part I love. So it would give me enormous pleasure if you actually got into this. But the reason I'm mentioning it as well is that with the alembic still, what we can actually do is we can take grains and we can do a fermentation using grains. We can take things like potatoes, we can use molasses sugar, all sorts of different things that we can actually do a distillation of once we've done a fermentation using these products. But obviously if we're going to do grain, we have the perfect beast here to actually do it for us. We can do our own mash, we can do our own sparging, we've then got the wort that we can then turn into alcohol, and we can then use that to run through the alembic still. Now the great thing about the alembic still is that we will actually retain a lot of the flavours that come through. So when we've done the mash, we can then use that, and the malty taste will come through because we're collecting at a much lower alcohol level. The alcohol levels on these are around 50%. So at that sort of level, we're not going to strip out the flavours that we would do with something like the T500, which is far more designed for use with the likes of vodka. So if we're trying to make something like a traditional whiskey using an all-grain mash, we do that in the Grainfather. We then put the lid on, which is the alembic lid with the condenser. We will then extract the alcohol from that. That's going to come through at around 50%, and it's going to retain a lot of the malty flavours, which is going to give us the whiskey taste. And that's how they make whiskey in Scotland. Now obviously, if you're wanting to go down that route, you're already halfway there with the Grainfather. So all the purchase necessary is the actual tops that you're going to need to actually take it to the next level of distillation. We also mentioned about the T500, which is this one here. This one is much more designed for making pure vodka. This one's going to come through at about 92-94% alcohol, and as I said, it's like vodka, and you can then add flavourings to it to produce your favourite whiskies, gins, rums, brandy, whatever it is you're actually making. But I think that the Grainfather has really helped us to be able to look at the next stage of what we're wanting to do. We've already got the boiler, so all we need to do is buy the extra bits that go with it. So please give it a go if it's something that ticks your box.